And now we're live streaming. Okay, so welcome to the fourth voting session of the Environment and Transportation Committee. I'm the chair, Kumar Barve. I'm joined by my vice chair, Dana Stein, and the committee is present. So we have a pretty short voting list. We actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bills that have been withdrawn by sponsor. One of them, Delegate Stewart, withdrew his bill 949. So the first vote we're going to take is going to be a roll call vote to withdraw the following bills, or rather to move the following bills unfavorable withdrawn by sponsor, and they are House Bill 494, House Bill 575, House Bill 821, House Bill 856, and House Bill 924. The motion is unfavorable.
Second.
Sponsor, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, we'll just go to roll. It's an unfavorable motion. We'll go to a roll call. Margie, or whoever is doing it, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, Uriel's going to do it, but I'm sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
I'm new to this.
Take your time.
I love the Margie channeling Trish. That's good.
Yeah, and not doing a good job already. Uriel, how do we do all those bills for one vote? Do we have to record them?
We'll do that later.
We'll do that later. So just don't do it now.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think what Trish does, she fills it in after the fact.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
So,
We can
so
go.
again, to repeat, this is House Bills 494, House Bill 575, House Bill 821, House Bill 856, and House Bill 924. The motion is unfavorable, withdrawn by sponsor. There's a second. Take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay. Vice Chair Stein,
Yes.
Delegate Holmes,
Yes.
Delegate Learman,
Yes.
Delegate Frazier Hidalgo,
Yes.
Delegate Otto,
Yes.
Delegate Jacobs,
Yes.
Delegate Wyville,
Yes.
Delegate Ambry,
Yes.
Delegate Siliberti,
Barry, you there?
He's here on the floor, and he went to get a drink of water, I believe.
Okay, he's abstaining. Go on.
Okay.
okay, Delegate Wells,
Yes.
Delegate Love,
Yes.
Delegate Ruth,
Yes.
Delegate Stewart,
Yes.
Delegate Lehman,
Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Terrasa,
Yes.
Delegate Parrott,
Is this HB 129?
No, this is the unfavorable motion to withdraw House Bills 949, 575, 821, 856, and 924.
Yes.
Delegate Boyce,
Yes.
Delegate Clark,
Yes.
Delegate Jalisi,
Yes.
Delegate Anderton,
Yes.
Delegate Gilchrist,
Right, okay,
Yes.
yeah, that's fine.
Delegate Healy.
They say.
Yes.
All right, okay.
And Mr. Chair,
Chairman votes yes. Barry, are you out there?
Right here.
Okay, it was the proper vote is yes to
821, 856, and 924.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, so it's unanimous among in the committee. Let's proceed now to House Bill 29, Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill requires the Department of Environment, in consultation with Department of Health and Department of DHCD, to adopt regulations to establish uniform standards of mold assessment remediation. This bill, Mr. Chair, received an unfavorable report from the subcommittee. I move an unfavorable report, Mr. Chair. Second.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the unfavorable motion? Delegate Harrison.
Yes, I just wanted to know the reason for the unfavorable motion, if you don't mind.
Certainly, one of them was the fiscal note on the bill, which is approximately $300 million. That's one of them. I'm sorry, $300,000. I'm
I was
sorry.
gonna say.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That should do the remediation too.
Because the initial fiscal note did in fact say 300 million. That was determined to be a typo. They meant 300,000. The other, Kristen, you can expand upon that if you'd like.
There was a typo in the original fiscal note. I think, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I can look at it. But it was $660,000, I think, in the first year. And then I think close to $900,000 annually to implement the program. And then there was also concern from local governments, that they expressed concerns with meeting the annual inspection requirement, among other things.
Okay, so Delegate Love and Terraza in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair Holmes, I know we've talked a lot about mold. Can you just remind me where we are writ large? Because this issue has come up a lot in committee and I don't remember what, if anything, we've done on the issue.
Well, there's some legislation that is suggesting that mold inspectors be properly trained. That is one of the concerns because there is no real training program for mold inspectors. The other issue in terms of mold identification is that it has been suggested, this bill, for example, suggests that there be an annual mold inspection, which is hugely expensive. One of the suggestions that has been distributed throughout the housing and property management community is that the mold inspections be done in conjunction with the rental license requirements. And mold inspections be conducted when there's a complaint by a tenant. And that is not what this bill specifically identifies.
Got it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Terraza, then Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just skip me for now.
Okay, Delegate Boyce.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the chair of the subcommittee for speaking about that. So when it talks about mold yearly inspections, is it a mold yearly inspection as it relates to the prior occurrence of mold or in general to inspect any property for mold?
This bill is requiring an annual inspection for mold.
Regardless if there has been a prior case of mold.
I believe that's correct. Kristen can chime in, please.
Yeah, the bill as introduced would have required annual inspections of all rental property.
For mold.
For mold.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, I think I want to go back to the Delegate Love's point where that mold is an issue. And I certainly understand because this came up last year about the professionals to be able to not only identify it, but also treat it, because in some cases, as we know, it's usually painted over. I do question the need for it as it relates to reoccurrence. And if I remember correctly, Delegate Henson brought this bill because there was in the project area a reoccurrence of mold that could not, these folks were living in it. No one seemed to know what to do with it. They still had to kind of live in it. And so I do feel a little torn that this is certainly necessary, and wondering, were there any amendments that could have been put in place to make this bill viable to the mold?
Well, let me take the last point first. In terms of amendments, I'm not sure if there could have been, or if there, I'm not sure what amendments would have been able to have been introduced, to reduce the fiscal note issue. That's number one. And number
Okay.
two, having, and this is an industry complaint, I guess, about the bill, having an annual inspection specifically for mold is in most cases unnecessary. And this is the
Understood.
industry. So if you're having someone come in every year to look specifically for mold, you're basically having most of those inspectors coming in to find nothing.
True, and I understand that. And I guess I go back to my original point was that couldn't there have been an amendment put in that there is an inspection yearly or, every 6 months as it relates to the reoccurrence of mold in certain areas to figure out how we remediate it? Because I get that not everybody's going to have mold, and we see mold as a moisture problem. So
Sure.
just
And in most cases, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, sir, you're good. You're good.
And the way it works in the industry is that if a tenant finds mold, then they have the opportunity to contact the landlord or the property manager. And if it's a case where they're in a jurisdiction like, for example, Prince George's or Baltimore City, Baltimore County, they can contact the housing authority to come in and inspect as well for the mold when the tenant has indicated that they suspect that there is mold. So that's two things there. The third thing is that when a jurisdiction has rental license requirements, like Baltimore City, Prince George's County, and within Prince George's County, for example, there are multiple jurisdictions, College Park, Hyattsville, et cetera, where they do in fact have annual inspections for their rental properties.
Absolutely.
And when those inspectors come out for those inspections, whereas every 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, depending upon the jurisdiction, included in that inspection is looking for mold.
Understood. Understood. Thank you, sir.
Okay, next is Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm kind of following up on that. I also think that this is a really important issue, but I'm a little torn about some of the concerns about it. I note that, for example, the letter from Baltimore City said that they don't have an annual inspection process, that they inspect their initial license is 2 years, and then it would be 1, 2, or 3 years after that, depending on depending on the conditions of the property. And so they, I just wondered if there was any consideration of an amendment that would have been more flexible instead of an annual process to allow it to be more in sync with jurisdictions' existing inspection process.
There was not an amendment put forward relevant to the discussion that you're having right now. No, there was not one put forward.
Marvin, were any amendments offered, or was just the feeling of the subcommittee to move unfavorable?
There were no amendments offered.
Okay, let's go to Lehman and then Terraza in that order.
Thank you, Chair Barve, and thank you, Delegate Holmes. The reasons, the concerns expressed by Delegate Boyce and Delegate Ruth are the reasons that I voted against, voting it down. I think this is the same bill that probably a lot of us remember from 2020, where a mom and her son came and gave really compelling testimony about the condition in their unit and the health problems it was creating. And Delegate Boyce is correct that usually inspections are only tied to licenses, first time, rental licenses or license renewals. And in some places, I have a bill on that this year, which is why I'm up to speed on it. In some places, for example, like the city of Laurel, they renew licenses annually, but they only inspect every 3 years. So that's the concern. And I do know that one of the housing lobbyists, one of the reasons that I was given for the opposition to the bill was that, and I found this kind of an incredulous statement, so I'm not going to say the name of the lobbyist, that sometimes tenants cause mold problems. I was flabbergasted by that. I don't know how a tenant would cause a mold problem. So I am supportive of this bill. I do not support voting it down. Thank you.
Delegate Terraza.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to echo those comments of Delegate Lehman. I am concerned also because tenants have said that they do complain about mold and nothing is done about it. And that I thought another one of the issues was that the inspection, I know in Howard County, we have every 2-year inspections, but there's not somebody who's qualified necessarily to, or a standard by which to detect mold and determine whether that's a violation. And I don't remember if I'm remembering testimony from this year or last year, but I thought we had testimony to that effect as well. And I thought there was some, although Delegate Lehman was saying she had concerns about that anyway, but about aligning these, as Delegate Ruth said, with the regular inspection timeframe. But I don't see an amendment to that effect.
One of the things you discussed, if I may, Mr. Chair, was about the qualifications of a mold inspector. There aren't any right now, as I'm aware. Kristen, if you could chime in on that. So if someone there isn't a qualification for a mold inspector, as I recall. Kristen, can you expand upon that?
Or, I'm sorry, you said are there qualifications for mold inspectors?
That's correct.
Let me give that a thought for a second.
Okay.
Well, while you're doing that, Kristen, I'm going to recognize Delegate Learman and then Delegate Fraser-Hidalgo in that order.
Thank you. I was just wondering if this bill was different than last year or if it was the same.
It's different. The last year's bill was wider in scope. It applied to a lot of different facilities. This like daycares and nursing homes, I think, and other facilities. This is just for rental property.
Okay. I couldn't remember. Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak on the bill so much as that I would like to say that it's important for people to understand that there are a lot of ways that tenants or anybody can create their own mold problems in a rental unit or in any unit. For example, if they have cats, which a friend of mine did, and all of her friends had cats, they lived in a place and they let those cats urinate all over the basement. And by the time she moved out, that entire basement smelled of urine and mold. There are a lot of other examples, I think, where tenants can maybe not do what they're supposed to do when it comes to their stormwater management in their gutters, which will allow water to come up against the house and leak. So there are a lot of cases where I think it's important to know that there are a lot of cases where tenants can create mold problems all on their own. And that's all I have. Thanks.
So Delegate Learman, you were waiting for an answer to a question of yours?
I'm done. Sorry.
You're
I just
done.
had to lower my hand.
Kristen, did you find out anything about?
So I'm just skimming and I'm just going off of recollection. But I know there was attempts years ago to have a mold remediation licensing program, but I don't think that it ever was implemented. So I'm looking at Department of Labor licensing and regulation, and it discusses the Maryland Mold Remediation Services Act. And it would have required any company or firm that provides mold remediation services. So this would be for services, not inspections. And that's that program no longer exists. So that was specific to mold remediation, not inspection.
Okay, Delegate Ruth.
I think there's a checklist that they go through, and it's a visual inspection. There's not a standard for mold, whether it's on a surface or, in the air. And part of this bill would have required the Department of the Environment to come up with standards for testing and remediation. But that's not something that exists, at a federal level either.
Okay.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, I was going to chime in on that last statement that Kristen brought up as well. There is no federal regulations or requirements either. So it would be difficult for the state or the jurisdiction to come up with those same type of guidelines, particularly when they have no federal to mirror it to.
Okay, Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a process question. Is it possible, process-wise, to hold the bill and to reach out to her and ask if she would submit amendments?
Sure. It's a tradition of the Environment and Transportation Committee to allow a member to hold a bill until the next voting session. Would you like to do that?
Thank you. Yes, I would, please.
Okay, we're going to hold House Bill 129 and move to House Bill 280. And I think that was yours, Dana, right?
Yes. Excuse me. The subcommittee recommendation is favorable. This bill repeals a county's authority to use one or more resource recovery facilities to achieve a 5% reduction in its solid waste stream for the purposes of meeting required solid waste reductions and recycling rates under the Maryland Recycling Act. It excludes incinerator ash from the definition of recyclable material for the purposes of the Recycling Act and makes confusing changes. So again, the recommendation is favorable, no amendments, so I move the bill.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the bill? This is a bill we passed last year, isn't it?
That's right. ECM did not, it's jointly assigned with ECM. ECM did not vote favorably. So that's why the bill did not move forward.
Okay. Any further debate on this bill?
Sorry, what number is it again?
It's 280.
280.
Gotcha.
Any further debate? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the favorable motion for House Bill 280 respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
No.
No.
Okay, so is there any Republican who wants to vote for the bill? Let me say it that way. Okay, so basically it's a party line vote, Uriel, all the Democrats. I guess, let me name people voting against it. Delegate Clark, Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Parrott, Delegate Siliberti, Delegate Anderton, Delegate Wyville, Delegate Otto.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. House Bill 280 passes. House Bill 483, Delegate Fraser Hidalgo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 43 was voted out of committee favorably. House Bill 43 is in the same posture as House Bill 1384 from our 2020 session. As passed, the House limits the hours of which a person in possession of a vehicle that has been towed or removed from a parking lot is required to provide the opportunity for the vehicle to reclaim that vehicle. To retake the possession of the vehicle, it's a minimum of 6 to midnight. We passed the same bill out last year. I'm sure everybody remembers all the people that were getting shot and stabbed in the middle of the night. So we're trying to help
And
reduce that as much as possible.
And yeah, right.
It's bad.
Okay.
Same bill. Same bill.
No amendments?
No amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on House Bill 483? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimous among those present. House Bill 517, I'm going to hold. Really what happened was we've conformed that bill to be the same as the Senate bill that's coming over, and the Senate bill combines elements of an administration bill and a sponsor bill. So basically, in any instance where that sort of thing happens, the speaker has wanted for us to run it by the leadership group. So I have every expectation we'll be voting on it next week. Okay, House Bill 545, Delegate Gilchrist. I believe that's your.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As amended, House Bill 545 requires DNR to make available hunting or recreational fishing licenses in a digital or electronic format. So the amendments, the first amendment limits the bill to hunting and recreational fishing. 2, it strikes the provision requiring how the license is designed. 3rd, we repeal certain signature requirements. And 4thly, we prohibit false statements. Move the amendments.
Okay, is there a second on the amendments?
Second.
Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have the ayes have it. The bill's before us as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
I see Delegate Jalisi has his hand up. Go ahead, Jay.
It was not about this amendment. It was just something else.
Well, is it on this bill?
No, it's not on this bill.
Okay. All right. Any discussion or debate on House Bill 545? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody's opposed. Okay, the bill carries unanimously among those present.
And slide.
Right. Okay, House Bill 575 is withdrawn, along with 494 and 5 on this page. So House Bill 563, whose bill was that?
Mine.
Okay, go for it.
The subcommittee recommendation is favorable with no amendments. This bill requires an animal control facility operated by a county or municipality to waive the adoption fee for a dog or cat adopted by a veteran who presents specified identification that notes that they're a veteran. An animal control facility may limit the number of adoption fees waivers granted to an individual to 1 dog and 1 cat within a 6-month period. Move favorable.
Okay, on the amendments, is there a second?
Second.
Any
There are no
discussion?
amendments. There are no amendments.
Oh, there were no amendments. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so is there a second on the bill?
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on House Bill 563? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill carries unanimously among those present. House Bill 593, Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill has no amendments, and it was passed favorable out of the subcommittee. And the bill established, and this is for condominiums and homeowners associations. The bill establishes procedures by HOAs and condos for additional annual meetings, and the bill prescribes how additional annual meetings must take place if the initial meeting did not have a quorum. I move the bill, Mr. Chair. There are no amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on House Bill 593?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Jalisi.
Yeah, thank you. What is the number of meetings now required for the HOAs, and what is the quorum requirement now for the HOAs?
This bill does not change the number of meetings for HOAs or condominiums. This bill also does not change the quorum requirements for HOAs or condominiums. This bill simply dictates what must happen if a quorum is not established on the initial meeting.
So what is the quorum requirement now, which it does not change?
What is the quorum requirement?
Right, which you said it doesn't change it. So what is the requirement now? I mean,
would it vary by HOA?
The quorum requirement is different in condominiums and in HOAs. I believe the quorum requirement in I'm just going from memory here now, okay, because it's not in the bill.
You can send me afterwards. I mean,
that's fine. Okay, I'll do that afterwards.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any further discussion or debate on this bill? Delegate Harrison, Delegate Harrison?
Just one question. Does this also include other common ownership communities?
Only condos and HOAs. It does not include Delegate Healy's favorite topic, cooperatives.
Well, I have one too, and it's my favorite topic as well.
We have a lot in common.
This does not include cooperatives because in cooperatives, it's a totally different type of ownership. Specifically in a cooperative, you don't own it. It's a share.
Okay, any further discussion on this bill before we vote? Seeing none, let's proceed to a vote. All those in favor of House Bill 593 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Delegate Parrott is opposed. Any abstentions? The bill carries. And last bill, House Bill 663. Who has that one?
I have that one also.
Okay. Go ahead.
This House Bill 663 is identical to a bill we've passed in the past. It just never got it all the way through. This bill codifies the existing provisions of federal law concerning the FCC's preemption of local ordinances regulating amateur radio station antenna structures. Motion is favorable, no amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on House Bill, 663? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill carries unanimous among those present. Before we sign off, before I ask for announcements and before we sign off, just want to make a couple of announcements. As you know, there's a booth in the annex, which makes it basically impossible for floor leaders who are in the annex to defend bills there. And so, and I don't want people running over from the annex to the House floor to defend bills, because on third reader, it might, on second reader, it's okay because we're not really voting, but on third reader, you might be caught in between the two locations and you might miss votes as a result. So I've deputized a few people who are on the House floor to take up, nice expression there, Regina. I've deputized some people who are on the House floor to take up the slack here. So for the Natural Resources, Ag and Open Space Committee, Melissa Wells is going to be the floor leader. For the Land Use and Ethics, of course, it will be Brooke Learman, because she's already on the floor. On Environment, it's going to be Regina Boyce. Housing, I'm going to do the housing bills, but I will have backup, of course, from subcommittee chair when I need it, which I might, you never know. Motor Vehicles and Transportation, Sarah Love, and Local Government, of course, will be Ann Healy. She's on the floor already. So that's Kumar's Angels, I guess. So good ass-kicking group of women there. So, okay, so that's my, yes.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to the chair of the Motor Vehicle Subcommittee for just supporting this, and for you. I think it's great and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are going to do a terrific job.
We need a graphic of that. I want to see a graphic.
Strangely, so do I. I wonder who's good at that sort of thing. And make it happen. Yeah. So in any case, announcements, any subcommittee chair announcements? Anyone? Does anybody have an announcement for the group? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Cornbread?
Will there be T-shirts made with Kumar's Angels on it, and where will they be available?
To be determined. Cornbread.
All right.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. Well, listen. Good work. We will be reconvening for a public hearing at 1:30, I believe, and so.